What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So if you've noticed or not noticed, it's been quite a minute since I've done a video. Very simple explanation for that. Got a full-time job, started working full-time again. So that's a good thing. Taking a little bit getting used to. I was off there for a couple of months, so doing that 8 to 5 thing is kind of like, damn, having to kind of mold myself back into that lifestyle. But I think it's good for me. I'm a person who functions a lot better when I have, a rigorous kind of steady, expected, anticipated schedule every day. So that's why, the amount of videos I've been doing has cut back quite a lot. I'm not stopping the channel. I'm not stopping doing videos altogether. It's just something that'll slow down for me. I might get in a couple of weeks here or there, and eventually, if it picks up the way I want it to, obviously, if I get to where I'm wildly successful at it, then I won't need an 8 to 5 job, and I'll just start doing that. But in the meantime, got to do what I got to do to support my family and XYZ. But listen, I want to talk about real quick Jalin Turner. And Jalin Turner, the fact that he announced his retirement.
He's been perennially ranked in one of the toughest divisions in the sport, the lightweight division, Jalin Turner. You made the decision tonight to retire following your loss to Ignacio Bahamondes. So what went into that decision, and why now? You're so young in your career.
Um, I was already entertaining the thought, retiring at the UFC 300. Took a little bit of time off, kept training, just trying to get my mind right. Just focus on like my mental health.
It's okay, take your time.
It's hard, man. Fighting's hard. I've been doing it for 12 years. And, you either got to be all in or not. And, even being in there now, I wasn't fully all in as I thought I would be. And, the decision to stay or not was honestly based off this fight for me. I feel like I'll get the nod, get the win. I watched him. He's an up-and-coming prospect. He deserved the opportunity. And, I feel like I would have got my hand raised, and, I didn't, and it's not, I know it's emotional right now, but I've been thinking about this for, the last 11 months, if I'm going to keep fighting or not. I was battling signing the fight contract because I didn't know if I was going to retire or not, didn't know how much longer I wanted to keep doing this. My kids are getting older. I don't want to keep taking damage. Training camps are hard. Life is really taking a toll. It's been taking a toll the last 11 months, so just need to step away for a little bit, I mean, maybe forever. At this point, the competition just gets better, I'm just getting older. So, yeah, I'm going to just sit down and think about it, but I think that's it.
When you talk about the mental hurdle, what part of it was the hardest for you to overcome or come to grips with when you're thinking about, again, being mentally all in when it comes to taking these fights?
Doubts come. There's always going to be things that deter you. But I haven't ever been in a mental zone where I said I'm not going to fight. I've never been there where I said I don't want to fight. Even no matter what came at me, I'm like, dang, like this sucks, but I never got to a mental point where I was like, I don't want to do this. I was in love with it. I love the sport. I love competing, and the fire is just not there. Even in the submission, I felt like I could have got out of the submission had I been, who I was before. I would have fought tooth and nail. I would have went to sleep. And I just feel like that wasn't me tonight, and that hasn't been me for a while. So, the up-and-comers just get better. They get hungry, So I wanted to be like Dustin Poirier and like go take out an up-and-coming prospect, but that wasn't me. That wasn't my night. And that's okay. It's okay.
And lastly, when you've had these thoughts, have you thought about what the next chapter holds for you, what you're looking to do beyond fighting, or if you're still going to have some involvement in the sport?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever stray away far from the sport. I love the sport. I love being around it. I love the atmosphere. I love the energy. I love the fighters. I love the fans. So I won't stray far away, but yeah, I don't know. That was another thing I wrestled with too, was trying to figure out what I was gonna do after fighting, and I didn't know. I haven't known what I was gonna do after fighting since I started fighting. So it's been hard. I don't know. Maybe open up a gym, do some commentating. I don't know. Whatever. I just want to stay around. I want to stay relevant. Whatever doors God opens up, I'll be there. So yeah, we'll see. Just take it one day at a time. But yeah, I've been thinking about this for a while. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
Well, Jalin, we appreciate all the great fights that you have given us in the UFC. You had a lot of love in your life. That's what's most important. So thank you so much for doing this, and appreciate your honesty tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, honesty is the best policy, man. I'm really transparent with what I go through and what's going on, and mental health is real. Just keep it intact. Keep your loved ones close to you. Do what matters most, and seize every opportunity you can. Like, I was a kid with a dream. I started doing this in my backyard, from nothing, and to be top 15, top 10 in the most stacked division in the UFC and the biggest promotion. It's all a blessing, and I didn't want to end it there, but I just feel like I think that's it.
Well, it takes a lot of bravery to get in the cage. It takes just as much, if not more, bravery to talk about your mental health as one of the people that is one of the most dangerous and strongest people out there doing such a difficult, dangerous sport. So I appreciate that. And he is Jalin Turner, retiring tonight after his fight, and we appreciate everything that he's done here in the UFC.
Obviously, not that this was the biggest talk about, the UFC pay-per-view event last night. There's a lot of topics to talk about. Obviously, from the light heavyweight title exchanging hands between Ankalaev and Pereira. There's a lot of things. Crazy spinning back wheel kick knockout of King Green. There's a lot of things to talk about there. But I like the fact that I get to talk about the mental health aspect of things, because that's something that especially men do not feel transparent enough to talk about, that sort of thing. And I like the fact that Jalin Turner got down and got real with his feelings. I really do. I like that. Part of it maybe is because I've also struggled with mental health issues, I guess you could say. A little bit of depression here and there throughout my life and things like that. And I think it's something that it takes a lot of courage and strength to talk about openly. I have a channel. This video will probably go on both channels, but I've talked about suffering with drug addiction. I've talked about that on one of my channels. So it's something that I really believe in wholeheartedly. Talking about who you are at your core and divulging that, and I'm not saying you have to go around with a megaphone walking down Main Street, hey, I got this problem, I got that problem. I mean, obviously there's a time and place for it, but when you have a platform like Jalin Turner does, where he has millions of people watching, and you have, millions of people as a captivated audience watching and listening to every word you say, I'm glad that he took the opportunity to talk about what he talked about. And, you could clearly see he was very emotional about the decisions he was making. So apparently it's not something that just happened in a vacuum, because a lot of people see that. It's like a disappointing loss. It was kind of quick. He tapped kind of early, and this is to a guy who isn't ranked. So Jalin Turner was the ranked opponent there. And obviously that was a disappointing performance for him. And I think a lot of people look at it and like, oh, he'll get over it. He's just kind of feeling down on himself right now because he didn't put on a great performance, and he'll change his mind later and he'll come back. And that could be true. That could be true. As humans, we're very emotional beings, and many of us wear our hearts right on our sleeves. And when we're going through something in that very moment, oftentimes we make decisions that really don't reflect how we feel overall or our overarching feeling long term. A lot of times we'll be very disappointed or frustrated in a given moment, and then we'll make a split second kind of quick decision based on how we feel in that moment. And then later, once we've had time to process all of those feelings and all of those emotions, it's then that we can look at it kind of from in the rear view mirror perspective, and we can, have a little bit more clarity and say, okay, well, I was just kind of in my feelings a little bit in that moment. I don't really want to retire, because he did mention how he loves the sport. He wants to stay involved with the sport and all of those things. But I just thought it was really cool that he let his emotions out the way he did, because a lot of people look at these guys and like they get into a cage for a living and they fight for a living, and people who don't do that for a living, we look at these guys and we think of them as like these pillars of strength, and and they're just have no fear, and they're just very stoic and brave, and any other adjective that could describe a person who is just strong. I mean, really, when you brave, tough, and strong, we look at fighters and they seem to fit the bill, and they seem to every adjective seems to describe them, right? For the strength, the bravery, the toughness, all that stuff. But we got to see with Jalin Turner that, bro, they're just people. They're just people just like we are. And they have fears just like we do. They have emotions just like we do. They have frustrations just like we do, and they become frightened of, not just the step in the cage, but things in life frighten them, so anything that you can think of right now that may weigh on you heavily from day to day from a mental health perspective, these guys who step in a cage and fight for a living, they aren't immune to those things. They aren't immune to those triggers. They aren't immune to those fears, that we feel on a daily basis. And in fact, I would say by virtue of what they do for a living, in a lot of cases, maybe they are more susceptible to those things, because obviously what they do is quite a risky business, no pun intended. I mean, it's very risky to do what they do. So I'm sure there's a lot of additional emotion and probably turmoil in Jalin Turner's life, because you have a family, you care about your family, and your family doesn't want to see you get hurt. It's a risk every time you step in there, but it's also something that you've been doing since you were a young kid. It's how you make money. It's how you provide for your family. So I'm sure he has this sort of dichotomy, like on one hand, I need to provide for my family. This is the only way I've ever done it, or only way I've been able to do it. And this is the best way for me to become financially secure. And, we all know that MMA fighters don't get paid like NBA players or NFL players or whatever the case is, but you're still going to make more, especially, being a top 15 player like Jalin Turner. You're still going to make more than you would if you know, went and, had an 8 to 5 every day, kind of like I'm doing, making 60, 70, even $100,000 a year, whatever it is you're doing. A fighter like Jalin Turner stands to make even more than that. So I'm sure he's torn in a lot of different directions. Does he stay? Does he go? Does he whatever? So I don't have, a really serious breakdown of, I'm not trying to dive into and dig into, what is it that Jalin Turner's really been thinking and going through that caused him to make this seemingly rash decision last night, because I don't know. And only he knows, and his loved ones, and in private, because he was very vague. You heard him talk there. He's obviously very emotional. It's something that he's been thinking about for a while. This isn't something that he lost. He's a little disappointed. Like, man, screw this. Screw this. I ain't worth a damn. I'm just going to retire. It doesn't seem to be that. It seems to be something that he's been thinking about, contemplating for quite a while. I'm sure being a cage fighter is a very, very mentally and physically stressful and draining career. And I don't think anyone would argue with that. And I'm a guy who's never done it. I mean, the most I've ever done is just trained a little bit at my local kickboxing gym. So I know how hard that is. So I can only imagine how hard it is to do that every day from sun up to sundown, and then actually go in a cage and fight another man, where it's kill or be killed in front of millions of people worldwide, and you're doing this all over the world as well. So you're traveling from here to there. You go through these really rigorous training camps that you put your body and mind through. So I know the mental health has to be really, really intact for a lot of these guys. For all of these guys, I think, to really maintain the sort of mental edge and physical edge that is necessary to be really successful in something like that, right? But for me, just the thing to see here is the fact that he was open to talking about it, that he was open to showing his emotions on the subject, and believe it or not, there's a lot of guys out there that really lack self-awareness, who are probably looking and, oh, what a pussy, sitting there crying on national television, like. But it's those same people that, when the lights are off and they're laying in bed at night and there's no cameras on them and there's no one for them to impress, they're some of the most scared, fearful people that you can ever imagine. Okay. And because if you are a person who's honest with yourself, then you have to also be a person that admits that, dude, it's, life's just hard. Life's hard. Sometimes, a lot of times, we all deal with it in different ways and cope with it in different ways. But just because you're this, cage fighter who has trained your body to be this, well-oiled machine and or weapon, that doesn't mean that you don't possess and run across the same mental hurdles and emotional hurdles and roadblocks that everybody else deals with. We all experience the same emotions, just to a different degree, for longer. Some of us for shorter period of time. Some of us handle and cope with it better. Some of us handle and cope with it worse, and we pop off, and then we end up getting ourselves in trouble for different reasons. People handle everything in just different ways, and it's I think it just goes to show that this isn't like a cookie cutter sort of image, and personality trait of these guys who are cage fighters. They're people just like everybody else, and all of them had different upbringings, different environments that they've grown up in. Some of them had really loving, supportive families. Some of them didn't. Just look at a guy like Sean Strickland. You got people who come from all these different backgrounds. Some people are more equipped to deal with the curveballs that life throws at them. Other people are more ill-equipped to deal with the struggles and the curveballs that life inevitably brings for all of us. Something that's important for me, my college degree is in human development family studies, so there's a very heavy component of psychology and sociology that kind of comes with my educational background. So it's something that I've always had a specific interest in. Plus, like I said, I've struggled with drug addiction. I've struggled with, mental health in terms of depression and stuff like that. So it's something that's serious for me. But I'm just glad to see the guy stepping up to the plate and, like, taking off the persona for a minute, where these guys sit up there in these press conferences and talk about how they're going to do this, and Saturday night's going to be this, and they're going to walk through the other guy and this and that. And he, took off the sunglasses for a minute. You know what I mean? Took off the gloves for a minute, took off the I'm promoting a fight persona for a minute, and you got to see the vulnerability of just a man, and a scared man, and a confused man, and a man who just wasn't really sure what the next step is for him, and I look at my own life and I look at everybody else's life that I know that is close to me, and I'm like, damn, man, I felt that. We've all been there, bro. I felt that for Jalin Turner, and I don't know, I don't have a clue what it's like to do what he does for a living, but I felt that for him, you know, and I'm just glad he did it. I'm glad he did it. But I will say this, and I'm going to end it with this. I hope that he does reconsider. He's a pretty young guy. He's only 29 years old. And I looked that up because when I saw the headline this morning that he had announced retirement, I was like, what? He's what? He's pretty young and he's good too. And especially for that lightweight division, being 6'3", I mean, he has certain X factors and intangibles that really make him a threat at that division. I know he had really been working on his grappling, so I'm sure it was highly disappointing to go in there and get submitted just like that when you publicly proclaim to the world prior to the fight that you've been working on your grappling. You go tell everybody, I've been working on my grappling, man, I'm ready. And then you go in there and get submitted in the first round. It's like, I'm sure that was a little bit humbling and maybe slightly embarrassing, although it really shouldn't be. His opponent is obviously very, very competent fighter, and it kind of propelled him into a new level when he beat Jalin Turner. But no, I hope he does reconsider, and I hope that it was just a little bit of him being in his feelings in that moment. And I hope that he does reconsider because he's definitely still has a bright future in front of him. And, just my words to him, if he were to hear this, would be, hey, just take a moment, take a beat, you know, think about it. I mean, if you internalize it and it's still what you want to do and you still want to retire, no, nobody can make that choice except you. It's your life, bro. It's your life. It's your family. It's ultimately your decision to make and no one else's. But at the same time, don't let the emotions that you were feeling in that moment, in that night, and the disappointment of it all, don't let that cast, a final judgment on whatever it is you decide to do, whether it's retiring or staying in fighting. You know what I mean? Because he's obviously still really young. He's obviously still in his prime. I would argue that he's just barely coming into his prime right now. 29 years old. He's not even 30 years old yet. A lot of guys, depending on where they are in their life and their career, some of them are just now starting to come into his prime. So I hate to, he dropped a close one to Dan Hooker. He's always in fun fights, but then he turns around and he loses a quick submission, to an up and coming guy who's really, really dangerous. And I hate to see a guy retire off of that. So while I appreciate his openness and his, you know, being vulnerable enough to show the world his emotions and to say, hey, we're just people too, bro. And when you look at me, don't look at me as Jalin Turner the fighter, Jalin Turner the badass, Jalin Turner the dude that'll knock your ass out. That is me, but at the core, this is me. I'm just like the rest of you, bro. I'm still a scared little boy. I'm still have mental health concerns. I still have mental health issues. I still struggle with things. I still struggle with mental health on a daily basis. And I really like the fact that he was open to do that, because whether he stays in the game or not, Jalin Turner helped somebody last night when he gave that interview, and it helped me, and I think he probably helped some of you. And there's, that's something men need to do a lot more of, bro. And I teach that, and I not teach it, but I preach that quite a lot on here. And it's one of the reasons that I'm so open and honest on my channels, and I just talk about all this shit, because it's something men need to do, bro. Like, we have been conditioned to, be tough at all times, not talk about your feelings, because if you talk about your feelings, you're a pussy. And it's like, what? It's not true, though. It's so not true. and women have a much better grasp on that than men do. Men are very like buttoned up, like, oh no, no, I'm allergic to talking about my feelings. Like, hold on, bro. You know, you're an emotional being too, just like anyone else is. So I think men really need to, no matter what they do for a living, start embracing that about our nature, and be okay with saying that this scares me, or that scares me, or this frustrates me, or that disappointed me. And I'm trying to like work through that and figure out a way to work through that. I think it's important because, really, in all honesty, one of the best ways to work through things like that is to what? Talk about it. Get it out. Get it off your chest. That's one of the biggest problems with men. They just keep shoving it down in the basement, keep shoving it down in the basement, shoving it down in the basement. And the next thing you know, it's like a freaking, you've just been stuffing bombs down in there. And the next thing you know, it just comes out and it explodes in a negative way. And then people come out doing things that they never would have done before because they've just reached this tipping point, of just, you know. So anyway, that's it. I'm not gonna ramble anymore, but let me know what you guys thought about what Jalin Turner said the other night. I don't have any specific information for you about what he might be thinking or feeling. According to what he said there, obviously this didn't happen in a vacuum. It's something he's been thinking about for a while. But I respect him a lot for having done that, for saying that. I really do. Let me know what you guys think. And if you would, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, guys.